To the kin, any region of blank space upon their star charts is a mystery in need of solving. The desire to plumb the depths of the void, to discover its secrets and claim its riches, is deeply ingrained in their psyche, as is the need to know what, if any, sources of peril might lurk amidst the shadows. The Hernkin are the furthest traveled of their race. Their sturdy boots have left prints in the eons-old dust of lost moons. Their pioneers have skimmed across the baking plains and through carnivorous jungles of worlds never before seen by the kin. Bands of Hernkin leave their kindreds behind for decades at a time, forging out into the dark spaces beyond the furthest trade routes, or shining their lights into regions long declared lost or forbidden. In many galactic cultures, such as the Wanderer's role might fall to outcasts and loners, and be synonymous with rebellion against confining social structures. By comparison, becoming one of the Hernkin brings high honor amidst the Leagues of Votann. By ranging the dark void, the Hernkin do great service to the Votann. Such a wild and rootless existence leads Hernkin to see unbelievable sights, uncover ominous galactic secrets, and experience countless, often perilous, adventures. All of these experiences ensure that when Hernkin finally return to their ancestors, they bring with them swaths of enriching experience. The Leagues of Votann also benefit greatly from the efforts of the Hernkin. It is often an intrepid band of these brave scouts that identifies and warns of an impending peril, be it a star preparing to go supernova, a hidden webway spur employed by Comorite slave raiders, an onrushing orc wah, or some other unforeseen threat. The Hernkin also locate potential trading partners for their kindreds, mark navigable void channels, scout viable regions for kindred settlement, and most important of all, locate valuable resources to be exploited. To achieve all of this, however, the Hernkin themselves make great personal sacrifices. It is this that makes them such heroes in the eyes of their fellow kin. It is not easy for family-focused clones to spend such extended periods of time away from the comfort of their kindreds and holds. Moreover, there is always the danger that if their band is wiped out far from League space, the Hernkin may never return to their ancestors. That these brave scouts are willing to take such risks says much for their character. It also speaks volumes of their race's inbuilt drive to survive no matter the hardships or dangers. The Hernkin take pride in the perils of their role as frontiersmen. It is perhaps unsurprising that they are amongst the most rugged and dour of all their people, holding hard to the bonds of loyalty that bind their pioneering bands together, who are all the family they can rely on so far from home. The Leagues ensure their Hernkin are as well equipped as possible to face the dangers inherent to their role. Guild affiliates furnish bands of Hernkin with the most advanced and redoubtable scout ships in Kindred space, piloted by Void Masters as courageous as they are skilled. A wide array of armored gunships and rugged exploration and combat vehicles provide the Hernkin with transportation the equal of even the most hazardous alien landscapes. Meanwhile, their enviro-hardened void suits are supplemented with an impressive arsenal of weaponry, both kin-portable and vehicle-mounted, along with a range of field generators, survival gear, and pan-spectral scanners. Pan-spectral scanners are useful both in prospecting and combat. They can detect an incredible range of energy spectra, not only through solid matter, but even across multi-dimensional wavelengths, ensuring the Hernkin are rarely surprised by even the most cunning or esoterically empowered foes. These scanners are equally unlikely to miss the presence of natural resources the kin would prize. When such rich discoveries are made, Hernkin mark the location using powerful claim beacons, whose multispectral energy signatures are bounced back along the network of relay satellites all the way to League space. It is at such times that the Chthonian guilds rumble into action. If the Hernkin are exemplars of their race's survivalist drive, the Chthonian mining guilds embody their belligerence and acquisitiveness. Fearless in the cause of locating, securing, and harvesting resources for their race, the Chthonians think nothing of braving environments so extreme that even other kin would balk at their hazards. From violent gravity maelstroms, meteor collision fields, savagely irradiated nebulae, and plague-ridden planetoids, to sweltering magma caverns, crushing oceanic depths, hypersonic shard storms, gnawing fringes of black holes, and even nightmarish space hulks adrift on the tides of the warp. The kin of the Chthonians take grim pride in braving them all. This bloody-minded approach extends equally to living or sentient hazards, such as predatory aliens or hostile empires. Included in this category are also many advanced and militarized civilizations with what would seem to be entirely legitimate claims to the resources the Chthonians covet. Many guild surveyors think nothing of assessing assets such as plasma storage plants, promethium stockpiles, void-going ore barges, and even fully functional industrial infrastructure as simply desirable concentrations of harvestable resources. They are viewed no differently than veins of precious ore locked away within a rock face, waiting to be claimed. In such cases, trade is often attempted as a first recourse, for war is wasteful. If such measures fail, then violent acquisition is viewed by the Chthonian guilds as the next logical step. As the kin truth has it, luck has, need keeps, toil earns. In short, they who want something the most and fight the hardest for it deserve to possess it. If that is the kin, then what they claim by conquest is theirs by right. Not all miners join a Chthonian guild. There are hundreds of unaffiliated asteroid mines and void harvesting rigs scattered across League space. However, a substantial majority of kin miners do choose to acquire guild accreditation for firmly pragmatic reasons. Most Chthonian guilds are rich and prestigious enough to operate their own fleets of ruggedly fortified void ships, which give them an edge amidst the fierce competition for the richest claims. Most are also willing to supplement the equipping and surgical augmentation of their members, investing in their future successes. Most kin who join the Chthonians are already adapted for hardiness. They possess clone schemes that imbue them with hyper-dense bone structures, extreme tolerance to harmful radiation, the ability to perceive esoteric energy spectra, vacuum-hardened organs and circulatory systems, and so on. Added to this, they willingly submit to repeated surgical procedures that augment them with reinforced skull plates, advantageous bionics, artificial organs, and other mechanical adaptations to help them endure the most extreme environments. There is a culture of cheerful rivalry amongst Chthonians regarding how heavily adapted and scarred they are, both for and because of their labors. The hardiest amongst them are nicknamed luggers, quite literally those who can carry the most, both in terms of literal and metaphorical burdens. With typical understatement, the Leagues of Votann refer to most resource harvesting operations as mining. It is a humble word for such an incredible range of technologically breathtaking operations, undertaken at a colossal scale. Global magna extraction and tectonic delving topple mountain ranges and shatter worlds as the kin free the resources they want from the surrounding planetary structures. Stars grow dim under the attentions of Chthonian stellar siphons. Phenomena that humanity view with superstitious terror are torn apart and processed by the kin through methods such as atom delving and trans-etheric resubstanation. Nor do the Chthonians shy away from mining operations in active war zones. Indeed, it is not uncommon for such conflicts to have been triggered by the Chthonian Guild's acquisitive efforts. Their ships are capable of deploying temporary defensive structures, from atmosphere engines dropped from gunships to field dome generators and heavily armed harvester plants that the kin soldiery use to defend their ongoing extraction process. The Chthonians themselves will gladly fight alongside the Hearthkin and Hernkin also as sappers, combat engineers, indomitable line breakers, or extreme environment infantry. Chthonian berserks, in particular, relish the opportunity to turn their concussion mauls and heavy plasma axes against their foes, smashing, bludgeoning, and blasting as they compete to prove themselves the toughest lugger. The Kinhost. The assembled military forces of a kindred are known collectively as its Kinhost, comprising the Kindred's massed soldiery, its Ymyr elites, the artillery and war engines of the Forge, along with auxiliaries from groups such as the Hernkin and Chthonians. The Kinhost is a potent force indeed. A Kinhost is usually built around a solid core of what the Kin call soldiers of the line. The most prevalent of these are the Hearthkin, stoic and dependable bands of soldiers who form the main battle line in combat. Hearthkin are technically citizen soldiers, in that many of them have side trades and interests they focus on during peacetime. However, as members of the Kinhost, they are trained as frequently and rigorously as the elite warriors of many other races. As Kin do not engage in anything unless they are willing to do it to the best of their abilities, all of this training and dedication sees the Hearthkin boast excellent discipline and prodigious martial skills. Indeed, a trainee warrior may not join a band of Hearthkin until they are able to pass a rigorous series of tests to prove their endurance, marksmanship, aggression, tactical acumen, and courage. Those Kin who aspire to become Hearthkin, or indeed other designations of soldiers of the line, typically boast clone schemes well suited to their ambition. They may be especially resilient, swift of thought and action, able to rapidly heal physical injuries, see in low-light conditions, and so on. As with the Chthonian guilds, the Kinhost also invests in augmenting its personnel. Many Hearthkin benefit from augmetic organs or limbs, cerebral communication chips, ocular targeting implants, and various other useful additions. Each Kindred's Forge prioritizes arming and equipping their Kinhost soldiery above all but the most essential duties of hold maintenance and void ship construction. The Hearthkin are no exception to this, and thus go to battle clad in hardened void armor, wielding an array of potent weaponry, from Audoc pattern bolters and ion blasters to Hylas auto rifles. No soldier of the line is considered expendable, despite being their race's rank and file. Rather, every Kin warrior is seen as a valuable combat asset, not to mention family members and scions of their ancestors. Field medics are common amongst their ranks. These Kin are provided with exhaustive training in first aid under fire, as well as limited engineering tuition that enables them to provide the level of care to damaged Ironkin soldiers. Kinhost military doctrine emphasizes the intelligent use of lives and material by Hearthkin and their comrades, never wasting either in the name of anger or vainglory. Strong bonds of loyalty bind the individuals of each Hearthkin squad together and ensure the comradeship of one squad to the next. meshing Kinhost formations beneath the trusted leadership of their heroic leaders. Those soldiers of the line who show sufficient aptitude are given additional training in order to wield specialist weaponry, such as the L7 missile launchers or Edakarn plasma beamers, or to serve their comrades as scanner operators and communications officers. If a kin shows particular drive and aptitude toward leadership, they will be nominated by their superiors or comrades to be promoted to the rank of Thane, which roughly translates to squad leader. This is a great honor and responsibility both, which most Thanes strive to live up to. Kin who truly excel may be selected to become members of the Ymyr, or else ascend to the rank of Call. Treading one of these paths does not preclude following the other at a later date, and some kin have even belonged to both elite circles at once. Most commonly, however, the Calls stand apart as war leaders and generals, while the warriors of the Ymyr fulfill roles such as elite strike troops, bodyguards, boarding parties, and the like. The trademark of the Ymyr is their exo armor, massive servo-assisted suits of powered battle plate. Exo armor is capable of shrugging off anti-tank fire while hugely enhancing its wearer's might in battle. It can also mount an impressive array of weapon systems, including the Edakarn plasma brands, vulcanite destructors, concussion weapons, plasma blades, and even the potent mass accelerators that transform the Ymyr champions into living battering rams. When the Kinhost mobilizes for war, it is commanded by its Kindred's Votannic Council. This body consists of the most senior and respected heroes of the Kindred. It often includes the High Cow, the Brokir Forge Master, and the Kindred's Lord Grimnir, and other senior figures of authority and power, as well as assembled advisors. The Votannic Council is normally gathered only for the grandest conflicts. However, usually when the entire Kindred or their hold face direct peril. At other times, portions of the Kinhost's forces may be led to war by smaller gatherings of heroes such as cows, Brokir Iron Masters, or living ancestors, or even by just a single one of these brave commanders. However large the mobilization of forces that occurs, the available kin soldiers, combat vehicles, void craft, and any attached Hurnkin, Chthonians, and the like are organized into one or more oath bands. The size and composition of an oath band is almost endlessly flexible, from a handful of warriors under a single leader to an army of millions supported by all the machinery of interplanetary warfare. Often, in the face of dire need, an oath band will simply be drawn together from whatever kin forces are available at the time. The one constant of an oath band is that it has an ultimate commander, most often, but not always, a call, to whom all its warriors swear an oath of service until such a time as the oath band's goals are met or their leader releases them to fight elsewhere. So variable and seemingly ad hoc an organizational structure would be unimaginable for most of the galaxy's races. Thanks to their close subconscious bonds and sense of shared purpose, however, the kin are able to operate in this fashion with little, if any, confusion or difficulty. The Greater Thurian League. Not only is the Greater Thurian League one of the original founding Leagues of Votann, it is also one of the largest, counting scores of kindreds in its alliance and attracting more to its ranks with every passing decade. The Greater Thurian League is a military, mercantile, and industrial powerhouse with few equals. At the most recent count, the Greater Thurian League contained over 200 allied kindreds. Between them, they boast vast flotillas of void ships and near-endless ranks of Kinhost warriors. Huge and wealthy guilds, such as the Ingvari Combined Logistics, the Starstrider Mercantile Confederation, and the Chthonian Guild of Kadok, see to the League's continued and immense prosperity. Greater Thurian holds, such as Crimson Gulf and Irvim's Bulwark, are famed throughout the galactic core for their sheer size and impenetrable defenses. Meanwhile, some of the most storied heroes of the kin lead the Greater Thurian League oath bands to war. Tall Kovim Rayed, heroine of the Black Harrow Expedition, Grimnir Vok, known as the Fire of the Votann, Uthar the Destined, wielder of the Blade of the Ancestors. These and many other names besides have found fame throughout kin society for their exploits and the ways in which they embody their race's core values of pragmatism, survivalism, and mercenary conquest. The Greater Thurian League have long ventured into far space, whether to trade with other species, to explore and exploit new regions, or to fight as mercenaries alongside the Imperium of Man. However, the recent manifestation of Warpstorm Argviar upon their northeastern border has forced the League into a more aggressive stance. Even as bristling kin megacruisers ferry Kinhosts east to bolster the rapidly solidifying Stormward front, the Greater Thurian League are also dispatching numerous prospects west beyond the circumnuclear disk. They have deployed forces into the neighboring Marsalis and Sepulchre sector in numbers not seen outside the galactic core since the kin first settled there. The remit of these forces is to claim new worlds, those kindreds dispossessed by the chaos invaders pouring from the maelstrom, and identify safe systems for the League to fall back to should its defenses fail or the fight become too costly. Imperial governors throughout both sectors have responded to this apparent invasion with a predictable mix of panic and zealotry, hurling armies at the encroaching kin even as their astropath's fragmentary distress calls wing their way out to the wider Imperium. The Great Thurian League thus finds itself embattled now upon two fronts. Yet their kindreds remain as determined as ever to survive and to prosper. The Trans-Hyperian Alliance. The Trans-Hyperian Alliance are the furthest traveled of the leagues. Many of the prospects that penetrate deep into far space wear their distinctive orange void armor, and their Hernkin are renowned for both their tenacity and frontiersmen's drive to banish the darkness beyond the edges of maps. The Kindreds of the Trans-Hyperian Alliance are peopled with explorers and adventurers. They seek out new warp routes, trade partners, and mysteries with an almost compulsive determination, and their forges labor constantly to produce swift and powerful spacecraft. While they control vast swaths of territory, both within and outside of the galactic core, these holdings are far-flung and thinly spread. Many Trans-Hyperian kindreds dwell in isolated pockets or have their holds aboard nomadic fleets that are ever on the move. The League remains well connected despite this, for lighter craft streak between the scattered kindreds, bearing news of discoveries and threats. Even the Leagues of Votann, of which it boasts a remarkable 3, are ever mobile, nestled deep within fortified void ships, and accompanied by sizable fleets. Ancient technologies within their fanes ensure that every Trans-Hyperian kindred stays updated with the coordinates of their Votann. The information displayed in a cleverly scrambled manner, useless to even the most cunning enemy boarders. The kin, after all, do not want any foe discovering the existence and location of the Votann by unfortunate chance. The driving force behind the constant striving and seeking of the Trans-Hyperian Alliance is their dedication to the enrichment of the Votann. In this, they come as close as any of their race to genuine religious fervor. A cult of ancestor worship prevails throughout the Alliance, whose fanes are always filled with small votive offerings to respected ancestors. Other kin find this practice strange and wasteful, but the folk of the Trans-Hyperian Alliance say that doing honor to their ancestors is a transaction only of value, never of cost. They view exploration, adventure, and battle that way also, driven ever to scatter across the stars and seek out the greatest enrichment and material riches in their ancestors' name. Hernkin are held in especially high esteem in the Trans-Hyperian Alliance, and a great number of their populace spend at least some time amongst these wandering ranger bands. Only rarely does the entire League rally as a coherent force. That is usually when one of their wandering Votann comes under direct threat. At such times, the Trans-Hyperian kindreds cast aside all other considerations, retreating from hard-fought campaigns, breaking oaths with allied powers, and even setting aside grudges as they race to the aid of the ancestors they venerate so greatly. The Kronus Hegemony. It is said of the Kronus Hegemony that there is no problem they will not solve with an axe. Existing as a military superstate, their kindreds muster some of the largest and most aggressive kinhosts known amongst the Leagues of Votann. Nor are they sparing in their army's use, for the Kronus Hegemony marches ever onward. The Kronus Hegemony is a relatively young league, founded less than a millennium ago, when the fane of Khorne's kindred achieved self-awareness. This newly ascended Votann exhibited an aggressive drive for knowledge and a demanding appetite for raw materials. The battle for Khorne's kindred to enhance its physical shell and arm themselves in its defense. Prior to this, Khorne's kindred had been a relatively minor member of the faltering Capellan League. Blessed as they now were with their own Votann, they broke away to start the Kronus Hegemony, and took several other former Capellan kindreds with them. More kin were soon drawn to the straightforward aggression of the Kronus Hegemony, swelling their ranks further. That trademark aggression, which often veers into outright belligerence, has only become more pronounced as the centuries have passed and the hegemony's might has grown. A kindred wishing to join the hegemony must offer suitable tribute in order to earn its place, and its kin must swear martial oaths of service and loyalty that are considered eternally binding. It is expected that their hold and void fleet will focus upon war, that they will train and equip massive Kinhost forces. The expectation of tribute does not end with joining the hegemony. Each kindred must prove their commitment by conquering an allotted quota of enemy worlds in each year cycle, sending portions of the spoils back to Khorne's kindred for their Votann's defense. The kindreds of the Kronus Hegemony have engaged in border skirmishes and standoffs with other leagues, and they have a reputation, not least thanks to needing to hit their conquest quotas, for finding any excuse to escalate into full-blown war against alien races. It has been suggested that the many grudges declared by the Kronus Hegemony kindreds owe as much to a need to justify costly conflicts as they do to a genuine desire for vengeance. That said, the kin of the Kronus Hegemony are notoriously stiff-necked and quick to anger. It takes little offense to see their swarms of gunships and armored transports go thundering into battle. For all this, many kin have had cause to be glad of the Kronus Hegemony's aid when beset by Xenos invaders. Entire orc wars and acquisitive imperial crusades have been shattered by their massed kinhosts. Moreover, since the manifestation of the recent warp storms, the Kronus Hegemony have wasted little time in annexing territories belonging to various alien races. They cite the simple belief that the kin require them to survive, and are therefore entitled to take them preferably by force. The Ymyr Conglomerate. All kin value good craftsmanship, but none more so than those of the Ymyr Conglomerate. Experts in every form of manufacturing, their brokir see to it that the conglomerate's holds and fleets are replete with marvels of technology, and that their weapons of war are second to none. A kindred's entry into the elite Ymyr Conglomerate is dependent upon fulfilling one of two criteria. Some kindreds are permitted to join after proving the exceptional skill of their brokir in fashioning battle gear, void ships, field technologies, or whatever other systems their forge specializes in. The more prolific the kindred's brokirs, the higher status they win for their kindred within the conglomerate. The other possible criterion for entry is if a kindred's territories yield a suitably spectacular bounty of raw materials for use in Ymyr forges. There is no stigma attached to a kindred's effectively buying its way in like this. The kin are pragmatic enough to recognize that even the most skilled brokir can achieve little without fuel for their forge and materials to work with. In exchange for sizable exports of raw materials, these resource-rich kindreds are rewarded with weapons, war gear, and vessels forged by their skilled allies. Though smaller than some of the Leagues of the Votann, the Ymyr Conglomerate boasts the greatest concentration of superb technologies anywhere in the galactic core. Every one of their kindreds benefits from remarkable force field generators to protect their void mining concerns and holds, expertly crafted teleportation hubs that deliver their passengers safely to their destinations almost without fail, and high-end scanning and communication suites. Their holds contain civilian facilities that, by Spartan-kin standards, border upon decadence, while their oathbands and prospects boast phenomenal military hardware of every sort. The forges of famous holds, such as Vonnick's Hall of Hammers, Cinderspan, and the Ymyr produce singular mechanisms of sublime might. Moreover, the Ymyr are notorious for possessing enough advanced beam weaponry, suits of exo-armor, and Colossus-class war engines to equip their armies at a level most kindreds can only afford for their most elite warriors. Even before the coming of the Great Rift, some Ymyr kindreds were frequent visitors to far space. They either traded with alien empires for materials not available in the galactic core, or else took by force those rich systems they considered theirs by merit of need. Recent developments have only seen them redouble these efforts, for some of their wealthiest kindreds have been cut off by warp storms or invading aliens. The rest of the League will not see their famed forges grow cold for lack of fuel. The Urani-Surtr Regulates. The kin of the Urani-Surtr Regulates have a reputation for survival against the odds. Courage and hardiness are their watchwords, and while they might seem more dour than most of their race, there are none more dependable to have at one's back in the face of peril. Known throughout the Leagues of Votann as the Ur-Surtr, this league and its kindreds have long held onto a swath of heavily contested and foe-haunted territories in the southern reaches of the galactic core. On one border, they face the awakened and warlike Necron dynasty of Semnok, whose single-minded Pharaon appears intent upon claiming the Urani-Surtr holdworlds. From the shattered stars to their east come the raiding fleets of Bog the Freebooter King, an orc privateer who commands a seemingly endless empire of ragtag greenskin pirates. Then there is the Gnaw-Star cluster, lodged like a splinter amongst the Ur-Surtr's northernmost kindreds. These worlds are haunted by an infestation of Tyranids that exhibit strange, almost nesting behavior patterns, unusual for their species, and are ever hungry to claim new worlds to infest. Other kindreds might have given ground in the face of such relentless threats, but the Ur-Surtr refused to do so. Nor do they show any inclination to explain their apparent stubbornness to the other leagues, beyond asserting that the ancestors would abandon them forever if they gave up their homeworlds or allowed them to fall. Some among the Grimnir believe that the Urani-Surtr guard some secret site of great import, or are privy to knowledge whose burden they shoulder alone. Others suspect they are bound by rash grudges sworn by their forebears against the encroaching foes, and that they must see these through to whatever bloody end. The most cynical claim that the kindreds of the Ur-Surtr are simply too stubborn to admit the poor return they get for their hardships, and too proud to relinquish their lands. The kin of the Ur-Surtr give no outward sign that they care what the rest of their race thinks of them. They admit new kindreds into their ranks only infrequently, and then only after rigorous tests and secretive meetings, about which the new applicants are oath-sworn to never speak. No kindred has ever left the Ur-Surtr once admitted, though whether this is out of loyalty or some other, more sinister reason remains unknown. It is expected of every Ur-Surtr kindred that they maintain as large a population as they can, accepting an ascetic life with the bare minimum of food, light, air, and heat in exchange for keeping their fighting ranks replenished. This selfless commitment to their cause is writ large upon the battlefield when the Urani-Surtr march to war. Their kin are ferociously loyal to one another and to their league, and they refuse to countenance defeat or despair while breath remains within their bodies. Myriad Leagues. As the kin possess no centralized administrative body, no one knows precisely how many Leagues of Votann there are. This troubles the kin not at all. For them, it is enough to know that they are many and strong, and that every league, no matter their differences, strives for the furtherance of their race. The traditions and customs of each league typically grow from those of its founding kindred. They are also informed by the lore offered up by their Leagues of Votann, and on rare occasions, by the unusual predilections or rudimentary personalities affected by these same ancestor cores. In typical kin fashion, what begins as a ratified charter or unofficial verbal agreement between allies soon solidifies into traditions that all of a league's kindreds are expected to uphold. While some of the Leagues of Votann might appear homogeneous to outside observers, barring only their heraldic colors and league insignia, in truth, most are quite different from one another. Many factors impact the nature of each league. Should its territories border an especially hazardous region rife with alien threats, the league is likely to adopt a more militaristic outlook. A league whose kindreds are renowned for their Chthonian guilds or interstellar trade might possess a more cosmopolitan and exploratory culture. Conversely, the perils of far space may have rendered particular kindreds cynical and insular. Some leagues pride themselves particularly upon their void-faring capabilities. The forthcoming knowledge and comparative clarity of their Votann, or on their reputation as adventurers and tellers of grand tales. Moreover, every kindred within a league has its own way of keeping its customs, and may choose to focus on one particular aspect of its overarching traditions. Amongst the Trans-Hyperian Alliance, for example, the kindred of Luminous Crag are famed as shipwrights of the swiftest voidcraft and atmospheric gunships, while Ukalak's kindred choose instead to honor their league's traditions by having every last one of their kin serve at least a decade as Hernkin during their early years. By comparison, the brutally direct Kindred 6 of the Kronus Hegemony pride themselves on their mastery of urban warfare, while their sometimes rivals, Silax Kindred, favor massed artillery and siege warfare. Some of the Leagues of Votann possess traditions that epitomize one aspect or another of their race's core values. The Typhon Styx Protectorate, for instance, seek always to render themselves indomitable, so that they may be unassailable by enemies and invaders. Their oath bands lead towards steady and relentless strategies, advancing from one defensible position to the next, and allowing waves of enemy counterattacks to smash themselves apart against swiftly raised ramparts and tanks, dug in as temporary bunkers. The holds of the Typhon Styx are, without exception, massively fortified. They are forever being improved by the League's diligent brokers. The Guhulo Industrial Complex, by comparison, is a league whose kindreds pour almost all of their time and energy into maintaining trade routes and keeping their convoys of heavy haulers and escort ships moving along them. The league contains several extremely large and powerful Chthonian guilds, whose influence in the hearth space is such that they are virtually the de facto rulers of the Guhulo Industrial Complex as a whole. Other leagues have more unusual The League of the Tethys Expanse, for instance, is extremely widespread. Its kindreds maintain contact by means of a singularly potent interstellar communications network, whose proprietary technologies they will only lease to other legions for a substantial fee. The Sigma Draconi Union is a martially inclined league that prizes honorable combat greatly. Its kinhosts are held to a strict code of conduct at all times, and take an unusual degree of pride in their heraldry and decorative insignia. The Pan-Telluric Commonwealth boasts an exceptionally egalitarian society, while the Jotun-Eradni Combine have a strongly meritocratic and Brokir-centric one. Meanwhile, the Saran-Tok Mercantile League is primarily known for being the league to have traded most heavily with the Tau Empire. In the Forge Wrought, the Brokir are amongst the most highly skilled techno-artificers in the galaxy, making full use of the incredible bounty of the galactic core, coupled with the precious lore of the Votann. They craft devices of superlative durability, reliability, and power. In this way, they contribute greatly to their species' survival. Every Hold's forge is unique, built and augmented over centuries to specifications determined by Votannic wisdom and personal kindred preference. Yet in some respects, they are uniform. All are sleepless hubs of activity, lit by the molten fires and searing plasma arcs of technological manufacture, and are filled with mechanisms of artifice ranging from Brokir's personal Aeon Vial workstations to colossal auto foundries. As well as overseeing the work of their cog robot assistants, each Brokir takes pride in constructing their own devices. They follow traditional schematics in deference to the wisdom of the ancestors. Yet there is also general recognition that to truly honor the Votann, each Brokir must humbly apply their own ingenuity, coupled with rigorous field tests to improve upon traditional designs. Through this process, each Brokir develops their own preferences and quirks, which become known as their signature. The most efficacious signatures are adopted by fellow Brokir, so that over time, many kindreds, or even entire leagues, have adopted bespoke methods of crafting and manufacture. This slow but relentless process of improving upon understood technologies has helped the kin to develop original, standard template constructs even further. The most commonplace article of clothing worn throughout the Leagues of Votann is the Void Suit, and it is an excellent exemplar of the no-nonsense kin approach to technology. Threaded with bastium alloy reinforcement and fitted with thermoregulatory radiation-hardened underlayer, the Void Suit doubles as both rugged utility wear and, when combined with a helmet, a fully functional spacesuit. It is studded with connector relays that allow the coupling up of everything from exoframes and pressure rigs to reinforced void armor. This latter is the standard issue for soldiers of the line. Void armor provides substantial personal protection, multi-layer defense against atmospheric hazards, and a full suite of scanning and communications equipment. Another technological standard throughout the Kinhosts is the haptic utility nerve transmission recalibrator, commonly called the Hunter module. Meshing with standardized neuro-augments, this technology establishes a physical input and feedback loop between firearms and their users. It triggers minute gravitational assistant pulses from projectors built into the weapon's body, helping to maintain a stable firing platform even while the wielder is running full pelt across the battlefield, being jolted by shell impacts, or as letting fly from a moving vehicle. Hunter modules are integral to the typical kin tactics of relentless advance, while maintaining punishing volleys of fire. When coupled with the kin's natural musculature solidity and excellent training, Hunter modules are tremendously effective. These are but a couple of examples of kin technology, yet they embody the principles to which nearly all Brokir adhere. Built to prioritize reliability, utility, and efficiency over showy decoration or ideas of ritual significance. Kin war gear is as rugged and pragmatic as the beings that wield it, and will be battered to destruction before it fails in its duty.